I'm a married husband to a wife I love dearly. I have 2 boys, and they are now in the 30s. And when they started to ask existential questions back many years ago, when I was heading a cancer clinic as a clinician in cancer treatment, and also a cancer scientist trying to develop new regimens for cancer treatment, I was struck by those existential questions from my 2 small boys who were going out into the world, and I felt that this world is not sustainable. Personally, I was engaged in treating cancer with bone marrow transplantation, which is a very advanced form of cancer treatment by which we cure far above 50% of the patients that come to this type of treatment. And they were dying in 100% before we learned how to do this. And to me, it was devastating to see on the one hand how wonderful people are when they gather forces to take care of each other when they get cancer and spend any amount of money to cure each other. And on the other, that same species is destroying its own habitat, socially and ecologically. And I simply couldn't make those 2 pictures merge. And I realized that judging from how wonderful people are when they support their relatives and children into the future, it's not because they don't care about the future of their children. It's rather a lack of knowing how to do it. And I also recognized that my own community, the scientific community, was not particularly helpful when it was about structuring what sustainability would imply, helping decision makers in business and local governments to get there. So destruction was going on while we took care of our dear ones. And I decided to recruit the scientific community into a more rigorous effort to define what sustainability would be, to define how to arrive at it, and to define why that would make perfect business sense. Because I was so certain that that would be the case that I could almost touch it. So I asked toxicologists, ecologists, economists, business people for advice, and began a journey which was all about creating a big picture of what we could agree on when it comes to the conditions of this planet and how to live prosperous lives here without destroying it, and how that would be self-rewarding for those who wanted to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And today I look back 20 years and I see a number of doctoral dissertations describing that framework, how it works, and a growing number of businesses, business leaders and local governments around the world applying it, making money from it, doing well by doing good, as it were. Sustainable society is one where we do not systematically erode the social system nor the ecological system. And that is, in a way, what the Brundtland definition says. It's quite philosophical. It says that we must live our lives in a way that will not destroy the ecosystems or the social systems, so that we destroy the capacity for other people in the world, now or later on, to live their lives. But that definition is too philosophical. So how we define not destroying the ecosystem and the social system is made by principles that are much more operational, and that actually comes to grips with the basic mechanisms by which businesses and governments today are destroying the world. The first principle for sustainability is that in the sustainable society, mined materials such as carbon dioxide from fossil fuels and heavy elements are no longer systematically increasing in concentration in natural systems. What is that? How can you run your business without being part of that problem? The second principle is that when society is sustainable, chemicals are no longer increasing systematically either. What is that? How can a business run its business without contributing to that any chemicals are increasing? The The third element is that when the society is sustainable, we are no longer removing natural systems physically. We are not putting more and more asphalt on natural systems. We are not overfishing more and more so that we destroy the habitat of fish and so forth and so on physically. And the fourth element is that when society is sustainable, we are no longer eroding the capacity of people to meet their needs anywhere in the world, which today is occurring by abuse of political power and abuse of economical power. And what is that? Well, the beauty of a framework phrased by robust, rigorous basic principles is that this is up to you. There are thousands of solutions for Nike, Electrolux, IKEA, Tokyo, Portland, to live their lives in a prosperous way without violating any of those four basic principles for sustainability. And phrasing it that way gives you opportunity to redesign our societies to become completely sustainable, step by step, instead of trying to recycle more and more for its own sake, or turning from that compound to another compound for its own sake. But how much do we need to do to comply to complete sustainability, which is what we need to talk about more than how we are improving from where we were. There is one challenge which goes beyond all others, and that is not climate change, it is not poverty, it is not child labor, it is not toxicity from heavy elements. It is the lack of competence amongst our leaders when it comes to this challenge, and how all those problems linked to unsustainability connect. That is the great challenge, because the leaders of our time, they love their children, they are intelligent, but they are trained in the old paradigm. The new paradigm is that we need to give people food, clothes, good political decisions, drinking water, everything they need, but within the constraints of the four principles. And that competence is not there. So these people are smart, brilliant, lovable people, but they don't have the competence to lead their organizations to comply with those principles. That is the challenge of our time. Defining the gap to sustainability rather than defining some incremental improvements from where you were, and moving systematically to bridge that gap is good for you regarding your business, it is good to reduce your financial risks, and it is good to be innovative and foresee what the future market would like. So it is a way of enlightened self-interest. It's good for you and it's good for the world.